briefly talk about that process coming back. I'm glad to hear the shoulder was really good and you're playing some of the best baseball. Talk a little bit about whatever you want to share about that transfer process and what you were looking like. Times, we might be dating ourselves a little bit. You're younger than me though, but never had the transfer portal, never had all of this stuff that they do now. So what was that process like for you? And was that something that you felt was going to help to get you in the right direction as far as baseball and life? Yeah.
So, I'd like to backtrack just a little bit on so Fullerton was my dream. And this is kind of how, and I'm not afraid to talk about this now. And I wasn't, and this is where I talk about, that mental side of the things.
Yes.
Fullerton was my dream. That was, kid on, Christmas morning every day that I had that scholarship. And walking away from that, it was tough. Mm-hmm. It was tough, but it was something that I felt like I had to do for myself, not necessarily to continue my baseball career or help my baseball career out, but mentally for me, I had to do that. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Yips. In baseball. You got Chuck Knobloch, you got Rick Ankiel, plenty of guys that you can go down the line and they've had the Yips. There's guys that have made it back to the big leagues. Tyler Matzek just last year won a World Series and came back from it. But it is something that I suffered from at Fullerton. I got to the point that, and based on these things, I was probably a 10 out of 10 case. I was really bad. I couldn't throw a baseball 20 feet to save my life. I'd throw it straight into the ground, straight over heads. It was kind of crazy. And it just came on after one throw. I was throwing in the middle of an inter squad game, throwing the ball back to a pitcher. And it just like that easy task just left my body. It was gone. So it became this like mental fight. Yeah. And that's when baseball started becoming this, like, it was a fight every day. And I don't know if I can sit here and talk about another podcast on here, but I just got done listening to Losing Control.
Okay.
It's a podcast. It's from Sports Illustrated, and it's all about the Yips.
Yeah.
And it goes into the twisties with gymnasts and all that. And you just kind of lose it. It's something I've done every day of my life for the past 5 or 6 years, and I can't do it anymore. And I tried everything, and I'm the guy that, just as I said before, I'm gonna run my head through a brick wall. So my girlfriend at the time, she was a softball player. I would take her out, and we would just play catch like on my days off, and that was all I was focused on. Was just getting that right. So I lost track of hitting. I lost track of everything else. I would work out only when we would work out with the team. I wouldn't do anything extra. And it was all focused on this one thing. I was doing different things of sleeping different ways, trying to get more sleep. I thought it was this mental health, like this condition. And it can be attributed to mental health, but the more I've done and the more research I've done, it's more of a neurological thing. Your brain just stops clicking in that way. It just loses that pathway of doing that thing you've done. As a highly competent, high level athlete, I just lost it. At that time, it was man up, it's going to be okay. And I told my dad, I told him, I was like, hey man, I don't even want to be out there right now. I can't throw the ball back to the pitcher. And I felt so bad. I felt like a failure telling him this and actually exposing myself, because I tried working through it so much and so doing so many different things. And it just got to the point I'm like, I need help. I need more than just you sitting here telling me it's okay. And our relationship started to kind of go in different directions because of this, because I was like, no, Dad, like, this is where you need to listen to me. Like, I've listened to you up to this point. And I went and talked to the head coach, who just recently retired. I sat down in his office in tears, like, hey, I don't know what to do. And we had, I forget his name, but we had access to one of the top mental health coaches. I think he had recently passed, but one of the top mental health coaches taught at Cal State Fullerton, and sports mental health. And I was hesitant to be like, hey, can I go meet with him, or like, can we get him in here to help me?
Yeah.
I was hoping that it would be like offered to me. And my head coach, he kind of went through a story of him having the same issue driving to work every day, of it just having that anxiety. And I'm like, well, this is past anxiety. Like, this is just like, I need help. And again, all I was met with was, just don't think about it. Like, just don't think about it. And I mean, in addition to that, there were some things that were going on there that I felt like they just lost sight of me. And now I understand why, because heck, I was in a far off land myself. So for me, it came down to that. It was like, this is something I hadn't experienced.
Yeah.
And then now I look back, and there were, I think, 2 other guys on that team that I was on at Fullerton that were experiencing the same thing. Yeah. Going through the exact same thing. Couldn't throw a baseball 10, 20 feet. And, one of them made the big leagues, and he was a DH, and he rarely played the outfield, because he's like, and you could see like his splits of him when he played the outfield to him when he DH'd, it was completely different. Because you're focused on one thing and one thing only when you're out there, and you have this condition that you're going through. But I felt like my needs weren't being met. Like, I felt like I wasn't being heard. And nowadays, I think something like that, me going and talking to somebody, it would be met. It would be heard. There would be things to do. I've actually worked with a kid who's going through the same thing in Utah. And we sat down and we talked about it. And it's okay. I mean, and anybody that's listening to this, it's okay. I mean, and it could be anything that you do. It could be driving to work. You just get this like overarching fear of like, I can't do it. Or like, little things like that. But it's okay. And that's when I had to make that decision. I had to go somewhere else. I had to leave. So
no, thanks so much for sharing that. And I mean, it's good to hear that experience, because I think, like you said, especially, when we look back to 10, 15 years ago, I think the way that it was handled, it was exactly what you've experienced. Like, there wasn't too much awareness or what's the best tools for this kind of condition. It was kind of just like, maybe you just lost the skill, but that's not true, right? So kind of explain a little bit more, like, well, how long was that? Like one whole season that you kind of had that? Was it longer than a season? Did you have to get over it more through the JUCO season? Or what was the timeline of like what you think, how you kind of overcame that?
So I'll be honest, I don't think I've overcome it yet. I've picked up baseballs and played catch with people, over the past like 5 years. And it's not that it's flying all over the place, but it's there. I mean, that it's there in my head that it's like, now as soon as you get 90 feet or further, I mean, I can hit somebody square in the nose every single time. And that's where I see a difference is like, I mean, I was as accurate at, I think it's 120 feet to second base as anybody. I could put it right on the bag every single time, but back to the pitcher, guy might be grabbing it from his feet to jumping overhead. And now, I still, there's days I watch baseball, mostly in person, and I still feel my hands kind of clamming up. And I still have a little bit of that, like, I guess, fear. That, and still not completely withdrawn that I don't have to go do that anymore. Like, that doesn't have to happen.
Yes.
But there's a part of me that's like, I want to go do that. I want that to happen because I want to show myself that, yes, I have overcome this. But I mean, I played the JUCO season.
Okay.
And I was the catcher for that team too. And I don't know how I did it, but I got through it. I think I just needed to take a step back. Now, it wasn't pretty. You see a lot of the catchers that might be going through it, they're just lobbing it back to the pitcher. And that was me. I mean, I was just lobbing it back to the pitcher, but I was getting it there. I was getting the job done. And again, anything past the pitcher, and I was money. It was nobody could run on me. I was back picking guys. Any throw that needed to be made, I was making it. Yeah. Except for that one
throwing it back.
Yeah.
Got it. That's interesting to hear.